Nice to see you all. I'm Riina Mikkonen from Tampere Film Festival, and I was invited here to moderate a panel, like it says here. And we are going to talk about hybrid films, discuss a little bit definitions of the hybrid films, but I think we are focusing mostly anidocs, which I mean documentaries which use animation techniques. And here we have 4 experts on topic, and you can now introduce yourself. You can start.
Okay, I'm Nikita. I do animation for films. My films are mainly about breaking things, about chaos, about very everyday topics. And I'm not sure if they're hybrid, but I think all films are kind of hybrid. We can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to start a discussion here, but I already feel like I need to answer your statement. But my name is Anna, and I'm from Latvia. I have been writing about film, and especially animation, and also about hybrid film. I have one article, but mainly at the moment what I do is I study psychology as a science, and I'm trying to combine this knowledge with all the years of curatorship, the director's experience that I have, and life in general. That's it.
Yeah, my name is Filipe. I'm from Portugal. I'm now based in Germany. My background is in communication and film studies, but then as part of my Master of Fine Arts in Edinburgh, I looked a little bit into the hybrid films from a practical side and also from a theoretical side. And in the last few years I've been trying to make films, and I've been also involved in film pedagogical projects in the last few years. That's it for me, yeah.
Hey, I'm Magda. I come from Czech Republic, and the reason I'm here, I'm based in animation. I studied animation, but the last film I made was a hybrid in terms of the genres, that it's actually documentary but not documentary, and in the terms of techniques, because it's half animation, half live action, which might be not a big theme for festivals like general festivals, but it's quite a big topic in animation world because we need to fill some quotas. That's why I'm probably here.
Okay, thank you. Now we are going to see some clips from Magda's and Nikita's and Filipe's, and then we can discuss on and try to moderate. I try to moderate, but we can discuss on definitions of films. Okay.
It was just before sunrise when I heard a person shouting. A homeless man was standing here shouting, and when he saw me, he stopped and went quiet and just stared at me and then nodded. So I nodded back, and after a few seconds he started shouting again, and when I went round the corner I just looked back at him and he was gone. It all started in a night like this. I was lying in bed when I could hear a deep hum coming from outside that was keeping me awake. So after an hour or so I decided to go and try and find the source of the noise. here the hum is almost unbearable. See and hear things that I wouldn't otherwise. The ground opens up, threatens to swallow me. And the windows become massive screens on which are projected weird things. When I wake up, I'm in my bed, and the hum is gone, and everything goes back to the way it is.
It all started in a night like this. I was lying in bed when I could hear a deep hum coming from the outside that was keeping me awake. So after an hour or so, I decided to go and try and find the source of the noise. Here, the hum's almost unbearable. I see and hear things I wouldn't otherwise. The ground opens up and threatens to swallow me, and the windows become massive screens on which are projected weird things. When I wake up, I'm in my bed, and the hum is gone, and everything goes back to the way it is.
Buntun byl král, ale byl hodně zvláštní. Neměl žádný otvory do těla. Pusu, nos, oči, nic.
Zbývají vám 3 hodiny spánku.
Nebyl den ani noc. Nebyl smutek ani radost. A jak to bylo dál? Snažím se snažit.
Here we saw 3 examples of, we can call them hybrid films if you like, but I would like to hear your opinion and your relation to the films which we are seeing as hybrid films. Like, if you like to comment on your film, which was this
Backflip.
Yeah.
Backflip. Yeah, backflip is maybe you can call it hybrid because it's based on a research paper. So the research was about AI, about machine learning, and it was done at Berkeley University, and we took that paper and kind of did our own research about learning a backflip with my avatar, and it was meant to be actually like a competition between me and the avatar, but then when I was doing the backflip myself, I injured myself, and so it was then a film about the avatar, and yeah, in the end I would call it also maybe a documentary, because it's documenting how my avatar learns something. Even though before I was doing just mainly like fictional animation, so maybe in that sense it's hybrid. But it's a very broad topic.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what were you about to say about the hybrid? Like everything is every film is a hybrid.
No, I mean there is this certain tendency to, if you don't know if it's animation, documentary, or it's maybe there's a little bit of live action, then you just say that it's experimental, because I think this is how festivals treat the hybrid films, right? There are several that really give the term hybrid. But regarding your film as a hybrid, I was actually thinking about that it's a documentation of a fact of machine learning in a way, and this is something you already just said, that I think therefore it is a hybrid, not only if we look at the content, but also if we look at the author.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, many of the films that I do are very like therapeutical, like therapies, and maybe that's also because I'm scared of AI. I'm scared of backflip, and this is me kind of treating my fears. That's the motivation. Yeah.
Okay. And you, Filipe?
Yeah. Well, so my film was pretty obviously not an animation film. And I think it's actually interesting that you're an animation director, you as well, to a certain extent, because yeah, the question of hybridism and how it plays out in animation compared to films where you use a camera and you're filming what's in front of the camera, whatever that means. I think, yeah, I think that's an interesting thing to discuss maybe further on. In the case of my film, it's a pretty old film that I made while I was doing my master's, and I looking back now after 10 years, I'm thinking of it as kind of a way of testing all of these different iterations of writing a script for something that I've actually experienced. Does that make it a fiction somehow, or is it still kind of documenting what I felt, even if it isn't, even if there's like an element of maybe surrealism, or of these elements of describing nightmares and so on. How does it work if I put it in the mouth of an actress? How does it work if I'm myself expressing that? Does that change anything? How does it work if there's a camera on a tripod? You can see that it's very high quality footage. Does it change anything if all of a sudden I say the same thing with the handheld camera? So this was, again, looking back, sort of the things that I was trying to experiment to see if it would add some legitimacy, if it would take away some legitimacy from what was happening there. So yeah, that's why I chose this clip. I thought it would be interesting to talk about those things.
And Magda?
Well, I did not know that I'm actually doing hybrid films when I was doing them, but all these labels came naturally while facing some grants and talking to producer, and so I, like me personally, I don't think I would need them, because what I was doing, it was just a film. But I understand that they are actually very, can be helpful in a way while watching it. So regarding Huntun, it's not a documentary because I don't think I would do a documentary about myself. The film is derived directly from my life, and I just think that it's very normal to do films which comes out of your experience. If you're an artist or director, that's quite natural. So I don't think it is a documentary, but it has those qualities in it, and it opened up some doors which would be closed if we would not use the documentary, let's say, label, or we would not do the research behind that, so on. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I'm also a film programmer at our festival, and we have these category prizes for the films, for example. And back in the days, it was very hard to define those documentaries which uses how to say it, not so traditional ways to tell things, but in the same time, I think hybrid films are very nice because they success to tell things which are not, how to say it, they succeed to tell the things that are not so easily told like a documentary way, raise some feelings or whatever. So if you can comment on that, is that why you choose this kind of technique, or it just came naturally, or you just were curious about it, or who can start?
Why the technique? I don't know. For me, it's I was always simulating. Not always, but when I came from university, to me it was a question: why do I do films? Why do I do like art? Or like how I don't burn out? How I kind of keep doing it as most sustainably for myself. And to me, the solution was to experiment as much as possible, to not know the outcome in the end, even though you have a script, even though you kind of have a story. But to me, it needs to be like a journey. The process needs to be fun. And that's why I started simulating, and to me the simulation was always about not controlling something, about giving control to the computer. And then choosing this technique, it was just a kind of like a culmination of that loss of control. So to me, letting AI do something for you is like giving up all control to the computer. And the challenge is how to balance it, how to kind of still have an input yourself, how to tell the story. And but yeah, that's why the technique in the film. And obviously it's about machine learning, about AI, so the film needs to be also done with AI.
Yeah.
Can I comment on my interest in hybrid film? Because I'm making very traditional puppet animations, so no, except for the fact that they're based on my real life experience, which is, I think, a given. Like it's for most of the filmmakers like this, especially in short film. But also, I think you have a very specific handwriting that I would recognize your film anywhere. So there is a part of you there, and I think you're doing very good in that sense of balancing the AI and your own kind of persona in this film. But my interest in hybrid and especially animated documentaries focuses on this phenomena of combining, let's say, facts or experiences and visual materials. Let's say visualizing reality in a way how a documentary can't do it, because when you're watching live action, you are following the characters, maybe you identify with them. But when you are watching an animation, I don't know, a rape scene or something even worse, you you are almost reading a book technically, and you're experiencing it through your own body and your own. You're creating this experience in your brain. I'm trying to explain it as good as I can. I'm just starting to do the research on how psychology combines with the animation perception. So bear with me. And so for me, the main point is that this is probably hybrid film is the only way, in my opinion, how to depict and let's say deliver an emotion in the most genuine way, or the most authentic way. Well, at least that's my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, it is a complex world we live in, and so there's why would you? Because we have all of these, okay, an animation film, a fiction film, a documentary film, and there's certain expectations that go along with it. But if you're able to use things from all of these genres, why wouldn't you? Like, why is the tension? Why is the tension arising? And I think it's probably because there's this pressure of what's real and like what you've witnessed and what's what legitimacy do you have to tell the story that you've witnessed. And I think that's maybe something that comes from like classical documentary, and it's still to this day when you think about documentary, you maybe think about something that you've witnessed to a certain level. There's some reconstruction that you can do, but this element of witness of what's real is still very much present in the documentary genre. And I think you were alluding kind of to that tension before, where if you have these films that aren't so much based on like a clear witness, a clear relationship with what's real, then perhaps it's a bit more difficult to fit them into a normal sort of competition or a normal program. But why wouldn't you?
I think for me. I believe that placing a film into a program is not that important. There are some reasons why it is important to have a label, like workshops, financing, European quotas, or whatever we deal with as curators. But the rest doesn't matter. It's a fiction, hybrid, whatever.
I might have a note, not as a director but as a viewer. I was at the Jihlava Film Festival this year, and there was a film. I'm very bad in names, I don't remember, I'm sorry. But it was actually a film about two young girls writing letters from Romania to Turkey. And it was very sensitive, it was brilliant story, beautiful, touching. I really felt a lot with the film, and at the end I learned from the titles that it's actually made up, that it's not real, that it did not happen, that it's based on true story. So, and it was not written at in the program. So at that moment, I actually, when I listened to, I'm totally out for everything. Let's try everything. But I think. For me as a viewer, I'd like to know where do you come from, and it's not about the fetishism of reality that I need it to be a true story or something, but it's the thing that I see person behind the maker, and I want to see his purpose. Like, why did he did the film?
Yeah, and in perspective of audience, I think sometimes it's nice to know forward before you see the film, if it's going to be a underdog, or is it based on true stories or so. But that's a little danger that you mentioned, that you were a little bit disappointed or something. And of course, artists can do whatever they want, but do you see there is this kind of danger that if you make a documentary that doesn't go very traditional way, it lost something.
I mean, I think when you start watching a film, you kind of you enter a contract with the film and the filmmaker in some way, and so maybe that's why you felt so betrayed by this at the end. Like you thought it was something, then it was something else. There's another example from I think a very well-known documentary from Sarah Polley, Stories We Tell, where there's lots of interviews and talking heads, and then there's Super 8 footage, and throughout the film you think that the Super 8 footage is of her actual mother, and it's like home videos, and then at the end you realize it was actually all reconstructed, but you only know that at the end, and that feels a bit like a betrayal. It's kind of like in the same way as what you're saying. So you were expecting you were expressing some skepticism about like hybrids and all films maybe being hybrids, or maybe I misunderstood you.
Oh, maybe you did misunderstand me, but maybe I just chose the wrong wordings for whatever I was trying to say. But no, I'm not skeptical, and I think you experienced a very bad situation. Honestly, if I have never been in a documentary festival tricked like that. Because for some reason, I think if you are a documentary film festival, you have a certain obligation. I think also you are giving this information about is it just a documentary genre? It doesn't matter if it's fact or experience or reflection on the experience based, or does it just look like documentary? That would be. I was tricked by Brain Tap. Honest, you know the Brain Tap, no?
Which one?
It's about the band.
Spinal Tap.
Yes. Oh, sorry, not Brain Tap. Spinal Tap. That was Brain. I think we were giving out the award at Sleepwalkers that was named Brain Tap. That's why I remember.
Okay.
But yes, so Spinal Tap. Yeah. And I think Everest, I don't remember what was the title. I just didn't know what a mockumentary is for a while, but then yeah. So there are ways how this experience can happen to you, and I think it's about the fetishism of reality. Actually.
Yes. I think it's actually a good opportunity to make the audience think, and it's quite needed in these times, because like we are flooded with content. So it's actually a good opportunity to really make people to think about what are they actually seeing, like how is it relevant. So I think it's actually a good thing that we have hybrids. That's the end of my talk.
But also we can then dive into this conversation about how documentaries are. What is the level of facts or realism in documentary,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So
there's very creative documentaries,
definitely.
which are very like script or something like that. Yeah.
It all takes place in editing at some point. You choose what to show.
Yes.
I have seen a documentary in Latvia that depicts a man who is raising his daughter alone, but he actually has a wife and nobody knows. I know because I know that they edited it out. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any comments?
No comment. We can maybe bring the
Yeah.
comment.
Does audience have comments? Please free to comment or ask if you like. Okay.
I can comment on. I'm sorry, I'm just in the center of these cameras. This is just the energy flowing from all over the place from these guys. You chose that I would sit in the middle, so I will comment all the time.
No
Yeah.
regrets.
Feel free.
No, it's. I was part of audience, as you are now, in a very nice discussion about any documentaries on war, and I think it's one of the topics that is best shown in. I wouldn't watch a documentary on war because I'm too gentle in a way, and I think. Well, at least I don't know how well do you know the animation world, but both with Bashir or I don't know, Nayola is like the latest film that I really adore. And I think that this filter that animation gives, it is a hybrid film. It's a animation hybrid. This filter gives us the opportunity to hear and listen and understand very terrible stories and very traumatic events in a way that we can actually take in. We need this filter sometimes, so hybrids are also helpful.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, is this the end?
This is the end. No. Back to the defining the hybrid films or anidocs. Did you get, or do you think it's hard to get financed with a film like that? Is it hard to distribute it? Is it hard to get the festivals with the hybrid film?
I can comment on a current project that we're doing. It was an installation, and it also was meant to be a film, but in the end it was meant to be a film just to get the funding for the installation. So there's like, sometimes you have to play tricks like that with certain funding bodies. I think in Germany there's like, they're very divided. You have the funding body for interactive things, for art, for films, but there's no like combination of them all. I think in Switzerland there's actually a funding which combines, which allows you to do film and interactive work. I'm not sure about Czech Republic.
We have now like big change of the funds, so it will be very different, but I don't know how. For this film, as you saw the trailer, teaser, it was hard. It was not hard to get money, but it was hard to divide them in between those two techniques because live action was very expensive and took most of the fundings, and animation, as its different nature, actually was a bit underpaid. But yes, that's a question maybe for each country different. And regarding the festivals, I was actually chatting with Karolina Davidová, my producer, which says giant hello to you now. And we were actually discussing it, and I think, as I said, in animation world there are certain quotas. Each festival has different ones. So if you're editing, you have to really ban yourself from thinking, oh, if I add this scene, I'm not gonna get to any film. So this is hard, but I just think it's worth to do that. And regarding the hybrid in terms of documentary or non-documentary, that's actually maybe more interesting because Huntun, it's not an easy film, so I don't know how to talk about festivals because it can mean anything that we have these festivals or these, but we have this experience that it actually is quite well received at documentary festivals which have short film section. So this is usually the festival that is interested in this kind of film. Yeah.
So do you think it's hard to get animation festivals with a film like this?
Yes, definitely. Because
they are stricter?
They are stricter on aesthetics, I think.
Aesthetics.
For them, this film is really tough, and it's not maybe because of the quotas of the minutes or seconds of animation, but it's just that for them it's kind of unclear. It's too much, I think. But
sometimes it's difficult also when you do a documentary animation and you're still researching the topic, and you're kind of conducting interviews and building everything, but then the funding body also already wants a style, a design, and maybe, I don't know, some kind of like a line through the film, like not even, maybe even a script, and and you have to basically negotiate with them, and it's in Germany especially, it's very bureaucratic, everything. You have to even give them all the calculations beforehand, before really knowing what you're about to do, and that's not really helpful.
There's also very televisual focus, I think, that's probably throughout Europe, and these sorts of things, maybe they don't work as well in television, but doesn't mean that they shouldn't get funded.
Also, another thing sometimes about short film is kind of regarded in many places as like a minor art form, or not even an art form, but
like
like
it would be like some kind of, how to say it, schoolwork for the feature film or
for
something.
growing up, so you can finally be a filmmaker. After making short films, you can like grow up, and it takes a lot of effort to kind of explain it to the people, because normally the people who don't know it, they usually have the money, and it's tough.
But do you have experience with animation festivals with your film, this backflip?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was because of the topic of AI, the film was done in 2022, and I think right now generally animation festivals are normally they're very open, but there's a couple that are more like technique focused, and then they're gonna tell you, I think right after the film did its rounds, suddenly festivals decided to say AI is not, you need to mark your film as AI, because now like there's a lot of AI coming up, and it's very easy to do films. We were lucky, we were quite early with the film, so it didn't have that problem. But it will be a problem, I think, in the future, like how, like if it's about techniques, I think technique will probably be more disregarded eventually, and it will be more about stories, about feelings, about connection with the film, and then maybe that will be also like, how does an animation festival then define, like, are they just gonna accept only handiwork, or like computer is also a tool, so like AI, so you could also actually exclude computer. There's just animation festivals which are mainly about stop frame, which is fine, which is also just technique based, but it's up to the festivals to decide in the end.
And Filipe, how did you manage to finance your hybrid documentary?
This was actually a school project, so it was funded through that. Otherwise, I don't have enough experience there in order to be able to comment.
I can comment on My Favorite War feature documentary that was that got the Crystal in Annecy Animation Festival, one of the most important animation festivals in the world, and the most important in Europe. And when this is a Latvian film, and when I think there was a situation with funding, they applied to animation because they had 20% of live action in the script, and then the rest is animation, and they wanted to apply separately, like with the 20% to the documentary funding and the rest to animation funding, which was it didn't happen. I think, well, at least I don't remember, but I remember that there was this conversation happening, and it was an idea that seemed, this is like maybe logical even, but they ended up asking how important is the percentage of live action if they can apply to NC. And they were even ready not to apply because there was not enough knowledge about whether a documentary animation can apply. So and they ended up getting the main award, not the main, sorry, the Kontorshamp.
Okay, you were referring to the future. Future of hybrid films interests me because there's been a wave of these different kind of hybrid films now, I think, last 7 years or more. So I'm curious, do you have an idea where is it going? Or do you have hopes or fears that everything in the future, everything is just crashed together and it's just film? That would be nice too, but any ideas?
Yeah, I was just recently, and maybe some of you have seen the Miyazaki recreations, where it was just like indistinguishable to see a picture, and if it's actually coming from Studio Ghibli or if it was done by AI. So I think just it will eventually, in my view, it's going to happen that many technical kind of animations will be doable by the computer just by pressing buttons. But optimistically, I think it's not gonna make animation, like handy animation, like by humans die out, because it's just it's in our blood to create things, and I'm an optimist. I think we will keep doing animation regardless of if there is gonna be a computer that can do it the same way, unless the computer really creates some kind of connection with the audience and forces feelings that we as humans normally do with our films. Then it will be like a fair game between the two, but I think it's gonna take a while still. I don't know.
Magdalena, do you have an idea?
I was actually not even thinking about it, even though you sent us the questions. I completely erased this, but because I don't know, I intend to stay in my own bubble of doing animation very easily with some things on the camera, and I don't care about AI because I don't use it. I was never thinking actually about using it. So I don't know. But what I hope also, I'm also optimistic, of course. I hope that it will actually lead to maybe better engagement of the viewers. That actually it will lead to deeper thinking about what actually I am seeing. Is it AI? Is it not? How was it made?
Yeah, and perhaps handicraft will rise again, and the appreciation of the handwriting or
the process.
The process itself. How about you, Filipe?
Yeah, we were talking earlier about financing, and I think a lot of it hinges on maybe if there will be more opportunities for financing for these films, if there's space in festivals, if festivals are pushing the envelope and finding space for these films and for them to be present somehow, or if there's always a bit of a distrust towards these films. So I don't know what the future is. I would, as I was saying earlier, why shouldn't you be able to use all of these different techniques from all of these different genres? Because at the end they're mostly a construct, but I do think that maybe some of the gatekeepers and some of the curators and so on, they will need to probably be the ones finding the space for these films to exist in their ambiguity. Otherwise, they will never be legitimized as much as maybe something that's purely fiction or like a very classical documentary. So I would say probably that, but I don't know. I mean, you work at a festival. You probably have these challenges as well. Do you feel like in the future there might be some more space for?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have already documentaries which are made in animation technique, and for me personally, I don't care. I care about the content and the aesthetics, and it's not about the labels. But in some cases, for the audience, for example, it's very it's nice to tell them that okay, this is documentary screening and this is animation screening, but yeah, to give them these expectations here.
It's also easier to navigate because there is a tradition and people understand what it means, fiction, animation, and what they expect from it. Sometimes they can be tricked with saying that this is an animation, and you, or this is a documentary, and then you see like reindeer spotting. You wish it would be a mockumentary, right? Yes. So, but I want to comment on this AI. I had a conversation with the artist that I'm working with currently on my puppet animation. He sent me like, check this out. Maybe we should use AI to make our puppet film, and there was something about Severance, 7 ways how Severance could be made by AI. And the puppets, they were blinking not with the eyes, but with the pupils. And I said that at this moment I'm not ready for this. But I was thinking about the fact that, okay, if the artist sends me this, and I have been also in some ways an artist in some animations, and I understood that for me the process of making the film kind of creates also the content. And it's very hard. I mean, if I would have to script that whole thing that I wrote by drawing, doing storyboards, everything, and then prompt it to the like it would be impossible. I mean, I could do like 2 seconds or something maybe with a 10-second animation that I would feel like, yes, this is what I mean, because I'm maybe a control freak or whatever, but I would not be able to give into the AI that works now, like ChatGPT or whatever, to make a film.
Yeah. But you were earlier telling me that you were doing the research how some films or TVs affect people.
Yes,
and I'm thinking in the future if we have a lot of films made by AI. What happens to our minds?
I think AI is feeding on us, not like on our ideas. It's not yet creating. It's still like biased, like the whole humanity.
Yeah.
Right. And unless it stops, then maybe there's something interesting coming out. But at this moment, it's a reflection of our society in a way. So in that sense, it's just like a mirror that you don't want to look in sometimes.
It's a black mirror. It's
a nice connection you made. I didn't mean that. But
I think it's about personal stories, and if AI at some point is going to do personal stories about itself, then it might be interesting. But as long as it's like also about animation. Animation is such a weird technique or like genre, because you're basically locked up in a basement for years until something comes out, and there is no real answer why we would do it, like besides just like the fun of it, or even not fun because some people struggle and like suffer doing it. But and then there's no real like reason for it. It's very irrational, and I think AI is very irrational, and that's why I'm still optimistic.
So, towards the bright future. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone
I have a question for like the festival perspective. Can you hear me? Okay, I'll raise my voice a little bit. But,
thank you.
You mentioned that a lot of hybrid films and festivals get categorized instantly as like expressive cinema. I mean experimental cinema. But then, like, my question is, where do you, as a curator or as a programmer, kind of draw the line between, like, let's say if you have a hybrid documentary, then how do you decide that I'm going to put this in the documentary program, not the experimental program, or vice versa?
Oh, tough question. It depends on the film.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's like if I have some idea of theme, if it fits like a documentary, my idea of how the documentary tells this theme, then I put it there, or vice versa. Yeah.
Makes sense.
There was another question.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Arling. I'm a student here in Riga, film student. And for me, when I make documentaries, the most important thing is the vulnerability in the subject. What they're telling, how it shows is vulnerable. But I'm wondering if you think that hybrid films, these in-betweenness categories, are lessening this feeling of vulnerability.
Listening.
Lessening. Yeah.
That means like
The
putting down.
Yeah.
Do you think that they are?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, why?
Really?
For example, when you saw this film with these two girls writing each other, and then seeing that they were not the ones who are experiencing that story, then first shows people and you think they're real and they show vulnerability, but then it turns out to be fake. So I find that is a
And you are talking about hybrids in terms of genres, like documentary and fiction, because this is, I think, quite two different things, because we are talking also about genres and techniques. So you mentioned it, hybrid as a technique, or?
yeah, for example, using pictures or animation to cover over for some
Yeah.
story.
Well, okay, then I would disagree probably. Also, I can connect what Anna said. Maybe practically I was doing animation with my friend Diana Kamal-Nguyen. She was doing an doc about young people losing their parents in some like they are telling actually how they lost their parents. So about that. And there were places in the film or moments in the film when they were talking so deeply from their heart, and it was so tough that any realistic picture would harm what they are actually saying, because it would be too much. Is it what you actually thought?
This was about the filter that helps
yeah.
us to.
So actually, I was doing abstract animation, and they were talking, and there were only like abstract stuff, and I was not the director, but I felt that this is something that actually gets even more to the point, because somehow audio is working more directly with our emotions than picture, actually. So
Yeah, but the people who experienced it were talking about this.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not an actor who is recreating this, for example.
Mhm.
Because I mean, like these people. No, I'm just focusing on documentaries, but these people, it's usually people or subject who talks about one story, and if we're starting to question if their story is real,
Mhm.
then I feel like we can't have empathy towards them.
But that's maybe
And
a
that's
question
what
of-
I'm questioning this in-betweenness, because
Mhm.
it's lessening this vulnerability.
Yeah, I think there was this question of the betrayal at the end of the film. Maybe it might be advantageous to kind of like signpost a little bit that maybe what you're doing is hybrid, like that it might be not entirely true, whatever true means, like big exclamation mark on the word true, because I get your point, but I think what you said was also interesting, that maybe there's an ethical point to be made, that perhaps exploiting the vulnerability of someone is not the way you want to treat your subject. And I'm not saying that you personally are doing that, but maybe actually, if your colleague had shown these people, like, that would be pretty exploitative. So maybe, like, as a filter element, is something that allows the subject to keep their dignity. And again, let's put like an asterisk there, because again, it's a big word, but maybe that's actually something that will allow you to tell your story in a better way, and focus on the thing that you want to focus on. But I would say, yeah, probably you would want to signpost a little bit if you're doing something that's not exactly, classically speaking, a documentary.
Because I come from background of journalism, where we're respecting we try to respect more the subject at least, because we have to deal with them afterwards.
Yeah.
But is it about the respect towards your material, let's say, or about the person, or is it your need to be as authentic as you can? Like, what is actually, is it really about like caring about the person? Because sometimes I was actually doing, because this Huntun, these byproducts of that were actually a documentary series of podcasts about insomnia, and I was questioning people and talking with them about their experiences. And actually there were people who would rather leave their, leave all the content and let somebody else do the talking and talk it over, because they hated their voices. So if I would actually want to respect them the most, I would use the actresses, because they were shy.
But that comes, for me, that brings up another topic. It's like, I believe that you can't make film, or you shouldn't make film of everything. Like, if people don't want to show their voice, for example, then, and if you as a director are not able to motivate them or persuade them to join in, then that's a lost story, and you need to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a hard discussion. Maybe we can talk at the bar afterwards.
You're mixing journalism with cinema. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a different approach you have in your way of work. It can be, but cinema was always magic, illusion, and the documentary is a documentary form. It's an aesthetic way to work. It doesn't have to do something with the truth. In French, the word is nice, it's cinéma du réel, so it's about realism, but in an aesthetic way. If it's a true story, it doesn't matter. And sometimes the audience feel betrayed because they mix with journalism or a way how they feel documentary should be. It's an artistic form, it's open.
The way they feel documentary should be, but also the way many documentaries have been throughout the years. So there's also reinforcement there, and there's also certain traditions within documentary that do focus on a more journalistic approach. But even in journalism, if you have someone who's experienced something horrible, sometimes you hear their voices, but you obscure their faces, right? And does that make it less legitimate somehow? Probably not.
It should be the choice of the character, or it should be the choice of the person, whether maybe this is a step that they want to make, maybe they want to be seen, and then if you decide, no, this looks too terrible for the audience, then you have problems with your project, let's say. But if this person says that I want to have an interview in darkness, you should go for it, because it's their choice, it's their story, it doesn't belong to you. When they have given you the story in darkness, then it belongs to you. And then then it's your choice. And then when we are watching it in darkness, then it's already our choice how we perceive it. I think it's very complicated and about the relativeness of truth, right? Was it John Canciani? Yes, I think in documentary, it's in everything. I don't think even journalism can comprehend the whole, like a deep dive in, the deepest deep dive, authentic research. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but I think when the world we live in, it's like you can generate someone else or speak, like the president or someone else speaking. You can make people say things that they've never said. I think we also need to seriously think about the art that we create and that we're helping to blur the line of truth or fiction.
But it's a choice that you make in the beginning, right? What is your purpose? To tell this story or tell this person's story? And if you decide to tell this person's story, you may choose another path. No? Can you help me out?
I'm thinking about anecdote which tells the story of women who fall in love with a serial killer who is in the prison.
Yeah.
You know the film?
Yes.
And I think it's very nicely done with animation because the topic is very hard and women are a little bit, some of them are a little bit ashamed of it and give an interview and experiences with your own faces could harm you. So I think it's an interesting topic and yeah, that way it works better than the traditional documentary, yeah, for my opinion. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. I hope we succeed to open a little bit the concept of hybrid films, and I want to thank you joining us, and thank you, and see you around.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.